All right, welcome back once more. We're on section 5, 6, and this is the percent equation, and this is going to look kind of familiar to you. This is going to seem similar to what we did a couple sections back when we were working on the percent proportion. So if you look back, and I believe that was in section 5.3, this is similar to that. We're going to do some of those same types of things again in this section now. So let's take a look at some of this stuff here, and let's take a look at this part here as we kind of go down, and we're taking a look at the percent equation here. Percent equation, and what we're talking about is simply an equation now that involves our percents. Whereas before, remember, we were doing a proportion. We said in the other section that part over base equals my percent over 100. And we always set it up as a proportion. But in this one, we're taking this part away. We're getting rid of this base part. We're multiplying it times both sides, and we're moving it to the other side. So we're saying that part is equal to percent times base. And this is what we're talking about. And usually when we do these problems here, we're talking about that number as a decimal. So we're going to convert these things to decimal in order to do this particular problem. You'll see this will look very, very familiar to you. This should. It's just like what we did before. So when we're trying to find the part, we would say what number is 25% of 60? And we set up the equation like this. Our number equals, there's my percent, there's my base, and I'm going to get the part over there. Or if we're trying to find the percents using this equation, you can say 15 is what percent of 60? So here it is as an equation form. 15 equals n times 60. N is going to be a decimal number, which we then would convert back to percent. And if we wanted to find the base, 15 is 25%, excuse me, of what number? 15 equals 0.25 times my number over here. So in all the other ones, in the last section, we had some kind of proportion where we were calculating that information out. And here we just have an equation. So what we've really done is we've taken and divided out that fraction. We've divided out that percent divided by 100, turned it into a decimal, and then moved the base to the other side. Every problem that we did in that last section could be done this way. Every problem that we do in this section could be done in the proportion method. But do it in this way so that you understand what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to get here as we do these. All right, so let's work through a few of these problems. These are just a little more difficult than some of the things we've done the last couple days or last couple sections. So problem 1 says find 6% of 525. Now, one of the good things to do whenever you start is to just have an estimate in your head of approximately what this is going to be. So let's kind of think of a way to estimate this one. And if we think, well, let's just think about what would 1% be, and let's not do 525. Let's say what would be 1% of 500? Well, that would be 5. And so if I had 6 of those, that would be 30. So when I get my answer, we should get something close to 30. If I get something that's, between 20 and 40, I'm probably pretty close. If I get something that's like 200, I know I've done something really wrong when I do this answer. I should get something that's fairly close to 30 when it's all said and done. All right, so remember, if you go and look back, we're trying to find the part here. What part. Find 6% of 525. So we're trying to find the part. So let's just kind of review this thing. What we said was part equals percent times base. And what I've got is I've got my percent, 6%, but I'm going to change it to a decimal. I've got my base of 525. So I'm going to change this to a decimal, 12.06 times 525. That will equal my number that I'm trying to find. So that will equal my value. So, you know, this is a good one to use a calculator on. Take 0.06, put it into the calculator, and you would end up with 31.5. Now, is that close to 30? Yeah, that's pretty good. So we can probably assume that that is a correct answer because it's very close to what we got. Okay, so that's our first example as we go through here. All right, example number 2 says 420 is what percent of 600? So first let's figure out what are we trying to find? Well, we're trying to find the percent. So if we mark these out, this is my part. Here's my percent. That's my unknown. I don't know what that is. And here's my base over here. And so I'm going to try to figure this out. And the way that I always think of this is always means equals to me. So I know that I've got 420 and it equals some number, my percent, and let's just use n, and times my base, which is 600. Now, before we go any farther, let's take a look and let's estimate this information out. So we've got 420. An easier number for that might be 400. And if we say what 400 is what part of 600, oh, look at that. That works out pretty well. 4 divided by 6 gives me 2/3. So, you know, my answer should be somewhere around 66 2/3% when I get done. And so I'm almost done anyway. So let's finish this off. 600 here. Cancel that out. And 420 divided by 600 comes out to be 0.7. Now remember, this is a decimal, but I'm looking for a percent. So I need to convert back, move my decimal place 2 places, and I'm going to get 70%. So then compare. Is that close to 66 2/3? Yeah, pretty close. Not too bad. So probably a pretty good answer on that one. All right, and then our third example here is in trying to find the base, and my problem is 65 is 52% of what number? So I'm trying to find, this is my base over here. I've got my percent right here, and I've got my part right there. So I've got those things, and I can kind of figure out what that would be. So let's once again, let's kind of do a little estimating here. Let's see if we can figure out what would be close. So let's, instead of 52%, let's think of that for my estimate problem. Let's say 65 is 50% of a number. Well, if this is 50% of something, this one must be twice as big. So twice 100 or 65 is 130. So my answer is going to be, or hopefully will be, somewhere close to 130 when I get that all figured out. So let's now plug it in and figure out exactly what it would be. And so I would say 65 means equals 52% changed to a decimal would be 0.52. Remember, I'd move my decimal place 2 places times n. Solve for n, divide both sides by 0.52. And once again, a good calculator problem. This would be one where I would encourage you to use calculators. There's not the mental math ones, you know. And if I calculate that out, that's going to cancel. And 65 divided by 0.52 gives me 125. So my original number is 125. And yeah, that's pretty close to my estimate that I got right there. All right, so why don't you guys try, let's pull up the page that we're on here. Why don't you guys try, actually we've kind of done, I've skipped over a couple of them, so let's have you go back and do these up here first. Where are they at here? If I can find them. Oh, I guess I just not looking very well. All right, so come on here. All right, so you can now see all of the problems. Let's do A and B up here, and C through F down here. So that should take you a few minutes to figure this out. I want you to do two things. I want you to estimate and show me, write down your estimate. So make an estimate before it starts, and then calculate the problem out. You may use a calculator for that. Don't use a calculator for the estimate. The estimate should be something you do in your head. And then the rest of it, just calculate it out. All right, so go through A through F. Stop the video because you're not going to be able to do all these before I get started here again.